Hi everyone, Sailor Neptune, Sailor SeaWorld Michelle here, and today we're going to talk about, you know, how Dic and later on Pioneer Pathseeker handled, the Unstraight folks, and why some folks, why this was done. Now, I'm not going to go and make forgivenesses for what Disney and Dic did when they were working with Sailor Moon, but they were coming from had to make Zoisite had to become a woman in the Dic world due to, well, WB and UPN leadership most likely would be unhappy if they happened to know there were two unstraight folks in the Sailor Moon drawing show. Also, many bearers and teachers and worship leaders would have been upset over it as well. And Disney and Dic did not want to lose the two folk works that they could get for Sailor Moon at the time, WB and UPN. So that's what they did. And if they didn't do it, they would have most likely lost the UPN WB deal and no one else would have picked them up. Alright? That was also the same grounds to how they got their USA deal and later on their cartoon deal the same way. Many folks thought that, oh, well, you should have just left them alone. Well, that is talking about now how the before was. Now you can have unstraight selves in a drawing show and no one will really care anymore. But back then, a lot of folks made a big deal out of it. And even if there were open-minded folks back then, which there were, they were not as many as they are now. And at least for Disney and Dic, they only had to worry about only had to deal with, Malachite and Zoisite. That was it. They were lucky. Pioneer or Pathseeker was not so lucky because they had to deal with it 2 times. They had to deal with Sailor Uranus or Sailor Skyworld and myself, Sailor Neptune, Sailor SeaWorld. And they could not shift us because we were already women. So that wouldn't have worked. So they came up with that we were near kin. And that was their grounds to why we happened to have this while we were around each other. And I know a lot of folks are going to say, oh, well, everybody knew they weren't near kin. Well, that's true. A lot of the things that were, being said weren't always being matched up to what was being done. But it seemed to be happy enough, and Cartoon ended up keeping Sailor Moon, alright? Then by the 4th following, we have Fisheye, who, well, she is a woman in the Pioneer Pathseeker world. The same grounds to why Zoisite had to become a woman was the same grounds for Fisheye. Now, I know a lot of folks out there are going to say, well, weren't there a lot of open-minded folks? In 20-0, there most likely were. But keep in mind, it wasn't how it is now. So, yeah, that's why Fisheye or Fish's Eye, whatever you want to call her, same name, same self. Then some folks like to say, well, why did Viz, when they had the rights to work with Sailor Moon from 24 between until 2023, why they could leave everything alone? Why they could leave everything alone is by the time Viz got the rights to work with any Sailor Moon things, the mindset has shifted. The folks willing to understand and to trust and being open-minded was bigger than it was back then. So all the things that those folk works and those teachers and those bearers and worship leaders that were upset about it before were not as upset with it anymore. We're more trusting and understanding of it. So that's why Viz didn't have to do anything, unlike Disney / Dic, Pioneer, Pathseeker / Cloverway. That's why those folks had to do the things that they did. And there's always been this belief that, Sailor Stars didn't get any English work until Viz was due to the Sailor Starlights. Well, the truth is that Pioneer, Pathseeker chose not to get a new deal, and Toei chose not to give it out to anyone else after that. That's why.